Welcome to the special council meeting of January the 24th, 2019. Thank you for coming. And I would like to Did I not call to order? Okay, call to order at 4:02. 4:01. Could I get an acceptance of the agenda, please? Councillor.
Hold on.
Sorry?
Deputy,
I've got a note here.
Deputy Mayor Waring, Council, I'd like to add one item to the agenda. To be entitled Announcement of Resignation. And then add item 3.1, Next Steps.
Thank you, CEO. Can I have a
Agenda?
still councillor Ramp? All in favour? Carried. Okay, we'll move on to item 3, resignation announcement, CEO, please.
That might have been mine. Apologies. I hope everybody can hear me without the microphone. Earlier today, through Deputy Mayor and to Council, earlier and it is the responsibility of administration to notify Council at the first available Council meeting, which is today. So I won't provide any comment around his reasons, that sort of a thing. I'm sure he would be happy to entertain a conversation with anybody who some next steps that need to take place as a result of that. I'll give you a very high level of the steps to come with more information coming back at a future council meeting. There's a by-election that is required within 90 days of receiving the resignation. 90 days takes us to April the 24th, and so at some point within those 90 days there will be a by-election process to be held. The council meeting around dates, timelines, etc., nomination process and other information related to that by-election. But just wanted you to know that that is what absence of the mayor, the deputy mayor assumes those responsibilities. And so Deputy Mayor Waring is aware of that, and he will resume the mayor's chair during this time. I'm not sure if
Council, any questions? Okay, thank you, CEO. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 4, new business, 4.1, cost savings initiative.
excuse me, Deputy Mayor Waring, just before Ms. Middleton gets started, I have a...
Oh, let's not do
Well, we
him
know
again.
that's out of Commissioner.
I think it's this one when this one's on. Try yours again.
I have a little bit, some introductory of several that will take place over the coming weeks in an attempt to fill Council's mandate to find $200,000 worth of savings in the 2019 operating budget. I'm very proud of the work that has been accomplished. So Council will be pleased with the results. Today's presentation is for information and is to serve as an update on progress made so far in the process, and a final recommendation to Council is still to come. February 4th, there will be a full presentation of the recommended ideas. Of process implications and other information related to each idea. The options that staff will recommend, we'll be seeking approval, and then seeking questions will take place at that time. It's the intention today to give an overview of the ideas and areas that administration have identified, and then move into camera for the MGA, and then there will be no decision or direction requested of council at this time. So I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Middleton to give you an overview of the methodology that we undertook, as well as
So thank you and welcome. So today is really talking about the methodology that we went through and the idea submissions that came about through a little bit of background on the idea submissions, and then we'll go further from there for the next coming weeks and what will be required. Council's mandate in December, so we took that away as a management team, and we held brainstorming sessions where we openly discussed cost savings initiatives. And just to further iterate from the CAO, there was very courageous discussions that took place provided to finance from each department. Rankings were prepared based on a criteria which included financial impact and ease of implication, which we will discuss further. Document to discuss pros and cons and potential impact on other departments and the community. So the idea submissions were submitted to finance by each department. This particular document, along with descriptives on the idea, background, origin of ideas, any cost implications as far as well, we talked about how those ideas may relate to other departments, and we talked about any one-time capital investment that would be required in order to realize the cost savings. And we went through and we also talked about what the potential and the probability and the risk that occurred. So we did do some risk analysis through this process. As well, we looked at identifying potential implementation issues these measures. So to talk a little bit about the methodology, the ranking was based on the following criteria, which I discussed earlier. In a 1 to 4 score. So under financial impact, 1 being minimal financial impact, in other words, the cost savings weren't material, to 4 being a material financial impact. And we have a grid that we used between 1 and 4, and it's described greater than $10,000. Under the ease of implementation, we rated a 1 to 4 ranking system as well, 1 being and you can see the different grids there. So 1, very difficult, to 4, not difficult to implement. And so this really played into whether these ideas were feasible, whether their impact would be so significant that we just couldn't realize them and were the different ideas, submissions sustainable? So could we see something that was not only going to be realized in 2019, but certainly could extend into future years? Did was we took them and we put them on this chart, and I'm not quite sure what happened to my chart, but it's up there. And the top quadrant, you will notice we've kind of highlighted it. Of them in total that met our criteria of being very easy to implement and having significant financial impact. So the following is a consolidated. All of these, of course, are going to be implemented. Some of them are not financially, they're not an impact. Some for the community and for our budgeting process. So each department had a number of different ideas that were submitted. The list is here. This is the exhaustive list. We have narrowed it down to 11 that met our criteria. Number one, we have online billing options, which we will likely try to implement some of these ideas if we can. They make sense to the town. Online billing options, so we are going to explore looking at whether we can send bills out by email, whether we can avoid having to mail billings to customers. We will look at the and we will explore those options with the residents of the community to see what they would like to see. For cutting the council staff appreciation program, so generally this appreciation is given to the staff. The overall annual cost of this is $3,600. Number three, we talk about EFTs, eliminating checks. So this to send payments to our vendors through electronic fund transfer. This will allow us to realize savings from not having to print out checks, not having to purchase checks, and not having to mail those checks. And currently we process about 14, just and then color photocopying, obviously this one is going to be implemented and has been implemented. So we will try and save as well. There are ways that we can streamline processes by not utilizing paper at all. So how can we save money by going paperless? And then the last one under administration is reduction in management salaries. And you see in areas where we may not be able to do for a full 12 months. So we've prorated them based on the possibility that they could be implemented sometime after the 2019 budget is approved. Take a decrease on their salaries. So under common shared services, so just to give you a bit of flavor on what common shared services is, these are all of the different departments within the town of Turner Valley. So our phone lines, we are currently in negotiations with TELUS right now to not only replace our phones, but to renegotiate our contracts for very, very favorable discount on what we currently pay. So, although we have this on cost saving initiative, this one will be implemented. It makes sense. We will save ourselves a considerable amount of money. Efficiencies. This will just be the start of a full-on review of different IT services we have. Currently, we are able to recognize some savings just from eliminating software that perhaps isn't as utilized as we might. So we will recognize those savings as well quite immediately without having to do additional work on the whole on our IT service. Manager. So this item is being explored because when we do various projects, in a lot of situations, even though they are capital in nature, we have a private engineering firm that does a lot of the project. We could bring this expertise in-house. Under community services, we currently have a program that there is this cost initiative was brought up that we wouldn't give them the necessary funds, and that would have to be funded by the federal government instead of us providing some of that funding. This particular initiative would just have some changes in how we staff our municipal enforcement, whether it's a change in how the hours are distributed. So this is also an idea that's being explored. And a different way that we provide a service to the events that we put on behalf of the town of Turner Valley. So or whether we change the structure of how those events are organized. And planning would simply involve deferring the municipal development plan review. So this is an initiative that was being put into our 2019 another year, and when we have the capacity within our budget to have it included. Under library, we have two different scenarios for library. We have scenario 1 and scenario 2. Current library board, we have to fund with the requirements that they come back with us after they've approved their budget. Under scenario 1, we would have a reduction in what we would provide them, and a decline in what we provide the Sheep River Library Board. Along within those scenarios, we would, the town would no longer provide the $5,000 grant in fund. Have been brought forward just as a way to find those solutions and to cover off the $200,000. And then the third one is just simply not providing under operations. We have 10 items that were brought forward. Keeping in mind when some of these we will take on regardless of whether they go negotiate and look at the cleaning contract. Currently we have a company that provides cleaning to all of our facilities, so we're going to take a look at that and see if there's a way that we can Perhaps we think about putting that out and we tender it and give the other organizations an opportunity to provide us with a amount that they could perhaps, maybe we can reduce it. Can look at how we manage the pool, and so we have explored a number of different options through how we handle the operating hours of the pool. Number 3 talks about the campground self-service. It would go more towards having those individuals that are booking campgrounds would have to come and put down a deposit on the campground when they enter. Closely manage as it currently has been in the past. Canadian Linen, so we currently have a contract with Canadian Linen to provide us with mats and uniforms. So part of this cost saving initiative would be to look at have a different type of clothing, and it would be outside of Canadian Linen. As well, we would purchase our own mats and we would clean those as necessary, as opposed to have park service level adjustments. This would just simply be looking at, and we have been exploring what are our requirements, whether it be seasonal or full-time. Under 6, this is really looking at the spray park and can we delay the opening. Currently, we open it opportunity where we can extend this and open it a little bit later into June. The Flair and Derrick Hall, this would be looking at whether we could have a third party would pay us a fee. In turn, we would allow them to manage the bookings and other opportunities that might present itself, so we would not be in charge of this would be looking at different ways that we could perhaps cut those hours in a way that would lower costs. Pool delay opening, so we would open the pool later as well, similar to the spray park. On operating the pool, it would take off probably 3 to 4 weeks of operating costs. And then the on-call use of Turner Valley vehicles. Operations employees would not be taking their vehicles home. They would just be leaving them at the shop at night, and then those that are on call would just come back and obtain their vehicle. So in summary, I would just like to talk about the cost-saving initiatives that we put forward. Administration has worked very hard in trying to meet Council's intent of identifying the $200,000 in sustainable cost savings. Administration, because we believe and we understand that these 2019 cost saving initiatives, we can certainly find a way of putting them into further and keeping in mind that not all cost-saving submissions are able to be implemented. And this is due to where they ranked based on the criteria. And keeping in mind that because it makes sense for the town, it makes sense for us in administration and operations. And the total cost savings that may be realized, and those are the ones that there are 11 in total that are in that quadrant, and they amount to $305,000. So administration is proposing the following next steps. So we have 4 key dates, and keeping in mind this is extreme. We come today, administration comes today, the finance team comes here today, and we've identified cost-saving initiatives where service level and delivery cuts should involve public participation to the public and a public participation plan for approval by council. And we want to come back and we want to do that on February the 4th. And then we want to take it away and we want to get public participation input. And we want council to take the consideration and the opportunity to request clarification from administration. We want to do this on February 19th. Complete our 2019 operating budget cycle is we would like a motion that council will identify those cost saving initiatives, and any additional council requests will be implemented and will So thank you, that is all I have.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So my understanding is that this process will continue, and we will get an opportunity on the 4th and the 19th of February to become more involved in that process with a finalisation on March the 5th.
Correct. At this point, this is just for information, and we will request that we move into closed session now to discuss some of the matters.
Accepting this report for information, please.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Thank you, Councillor Crane. Councillor,
I did have a question.
yeah.
Ideas on public participation. Are we talking open houses, surveys? Do we know that yet, or is that still to be worked out?
So point where we have to come to a common ground as to what we would like to take to public participation, and it could initiatives we are looking at.
Okay, thank you. If there's no further questions, can we have a vote on accepting this report for information, please? Information.
Voter up? Yeah, voter up.
Okay, that's carried. I need a motion to go into camera, please. What, 5 minutes? Give me a motion for a 5-minute break.